Welcome, everybody, to the first ever post-trade deadline edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show featuring Zach Meisel and me, Adam the Bull. And we've got a lot to get to today, Zach. Do you know what city you're in right now?
Yeah, because I can hear my kid and my dog
That's true.
making a ruckus downstairs. So I must be
Well,
in,
soon enough, there'll be another kid, and then it'll be even more of a ruckus.
must be in beautiful Northeast Ohio.
Yes, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be home. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the trade deadline, why it was July 30th, not July 31st. Did the Guardians do enough? They did something. We'll get to it all. Plus, playing better on the field after they sweep the Tigers, all on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show. All right, I got to tell you, there's no, and you know this, Zach, there's no place like home, right? In the
Yeah, how
end,
about you? How was your trip?
my trip was nice, but I'm thrilled to be home. And I'm actually glad that I'm not going away again anytime soon. I have nothing, zero zilch zippo scheduled. Although I am probably going to have to move out of my house temporarily because we're having work done at our house in the fall. But I'll stay in where Rocky River. We got another place we're going to stay at temporarily. But I have no desire to travel right now. Even though I had a nice trip, it ended in a weird way. How do I put this without being too gross? I had some major stomach issues the last couple of days.
It's good to have that on a cross-country flight, too.
Fortunately, it was okay by the time we got on the flight. But if we had left a day earlier, it would have been a major problem.
The best meal you ate in Seattle was?
I never got to that place that you suggested. We were going to go one of the last 2 days we were going to go, but of course the last 2 days all the restaurants were off the table. I think it was called Wild Ginger, right?
Place you suggested. Right. Best pad thai in America.
It was on the list. It looked great. The pictures look great. I just didn't get to go. Believe it or not, shockingly, the best meal I had, even though all the Asian food, no matter what variety you want, is fantastic. And trust me, folks, we'll get to the trades in a second.
Oh, this is why they came.
Yes, that's right. But so it doesn't matter. Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, whatever kind of Asian style of food you like. Thai. I tried most of it before I got sick. Didn't get sick from the Asian food, by the way. Got sick from something else. But anyway, and it was all great. But I have this list. It is my Bible of pizza, right? It's the top 100 pizzerias from a couple of years ago. So whenever I go to a city, if there's a pizza on that list, especially if it's near the top of the list, in the top like 50, I always check it out. And so there was a pizza place on this list. It was called Serious Pie. And they have, I think, either 2 or 3 locations in Seattle. And I went there, and I'll be honest, I was like, I'm just not buying a great Seattle pizzeria. Maybe it's snobby me, I don't know. It was fantastic. It was brick oven style, which is not my favorite. I like brick oven, but generally I like New York style more than brick oven style. It was the second best brick oven pizza I've ever had. The best brick oven pizza ever is the place in Arizona. I think it's Pizzeria Bianco. Is that the place?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the best brick oven pizza ever. I don't know if that could be topped. But this place called Serious Pie was outstanding. And so that was my best meal.
How was your when did you fly back? Because you had a direct flight, Seattle to Cleveland, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
Okay. And how are you feeling today? Tired, energized, ready to get what?
I feel I'm excited because I'm doing this with you, which I love. I got the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show next. I'm doing a podcast with Mary Kay later, talking some Browns. So I have a lot of energy today, even though I actually adjusted to Seattle time the last couple of days. And so I had a hard time going to sleep last night, and I did not get that much sleep. But I'm very high energy today, surprisingly, because I have to take Dramamine to fly.
So
how about you?
Pretty similar to Lane Thomas then, because Lane Thomas was in Arizona with the Nationals. He took a red eye. He found out he was traded, I think late afternoon.
Yeah.
On Monday. Takes a red eye from Phoenix to Detroit.
Yeah.
Lands, goes to the hotel, probably squeezed in a short nap, and then went to the ballpark and meets his teammates, gets introduced all over the place, and then is in the lineup and plays a day game.
Yeah.
And he brushed it off like it was no big deal.
Love it. Love it. I
So
love that energy. You want that energy, and that's great. And that's perfect transition. Good job out of you. That's the first of the two big trades that the Guardians made. Lane Thomas acquired. He's going to play the outfield. They put him right in the 2 spot, and he got a hit yesterday in the game. And I was flying, so and watching games on my phone in the plane was I had internet, but for some reason watching games was I just couldn't do it. But anyway, so I couldn't watch yesterday's game. This unfortunately, and there's no game today, so I'll see him tomorrow for the first time, hopefully. But yeah, that was impressive. And you always want. I mean, if you get traded from a non-contender to a contender, you think you'd be excited to play and want to get there as quickly as possible. And that was the case with Lane Thomas.
it was interesting because I figured, especially with the off day today,
Yeah,
I mean, he could have just
why rush?
right.
He wanted
Why
to
not
be
just
here. I like it.
get to Cleveland, relax, settle
Yeah.
into a hotel or wherever you're going to stay. But hey, I mean, I think that's smart. And then it was cool, after the game, they always have like a little toast or celebration in the clubhouse after a win, and they're still awarding that championship belt that Tyler Beatty introduced to them at the beginning of the year. And
Right.
you can kind of hear Austin Hedges is usually the ringleader here. He sounds like a wrestling ring announcer as he's recapping the game and awarding the belt. And he said something where it was like, "This is what we do here, Lane Thomas." I think he called him Ocho because he's wearing number 8. He said,
Right.
like, "We celebrate wins here, like, and welcome to a winning ball club." So
Right.
a nice introduction for him. And I don't know. It feels like there's so much to dive into here. Part of me wants to just keep talking Seattle cuisine for the next 25 minutes because it's just, I don't know where to start. I mean,
Well, let's start with this. Zach. When it comes to Lane Thomas, when you look at his career in Washington, right, he's been highly productive against left-handed pitching. He's basically all-star caliber against lefties, and he's been league average at best against righties. That being said, I think they should play him every day. Now, if it gets to a point where he's that bad against righties, you're facing an elite righty and you want to give, most guys don't play every single day. But I think there's something to be said for your big offensive acquisition. I don't think, I know he's had more at-bats against righties than Josh Naylor had against lefties before he turned it around. But I think Lane Thomas is so good against lefties that I don't want to make him just a platoon player. I think if they had enough guys in the outfield that killed right-handed pitching, I'd say, well, okay, platoon. But since there's not an obvious situation like that, I'd like to see that 1 through 4 in the lineup, maybe 1 through 5 to some degree, just stay the same almost every day. What do you think about that?
I'm between what you're saying and platoon. I'm going to go in the middle here because there is a benefit to him not playing every day, and that is, let's say he starts 5 days a week. Let's say against the toughest right-hander or one or two right-handers you're going to face, he doesn't start. And instead, you use him off the bench to find that moment where they bring in their best left-handed reliever, and you've got him right there. And you don't have to wait until his spot in the lineup comes up. You deploy him when it makes the most sense. And I also think he's going to play every day because he's got elite speed. He's 3rd in the majors in stolen bases. And he's got an elite arm in wherever you play him in the outfield, but right field, he's got 23 outfield assists since the start of last season. So he is like the bare minimum of what he can be is a much more well-rounded version of the Brandon Guy or Ryan Rayburn, Jordan Luplow type.
Yes.
Where he can crush lefties like those guys. So you want him hitting second against lefties between Kwan and Jose Ramirez. But then also he's going to steal a bunch of bases, and he's The defensive metrics this year are weird. He also had a knee injury that cost him over a month. So historically, he's been a really good right fielder. So he's a good player. And if he can give you anything against right-handed pitching, as you said, then he's excellent. But this is a guy who, it's weird. Last year he hit 28 home runs. The Nationals were dangling him, but I think teams wanted to see if he could be that player for more than just one season. They didn't end up trading him. The Guardians have liked him since then. I just think there were differences of opinion on what his value was a year ago. This year, the power is down.
Yep.
But the walks are up. The
Yeah.
strikeouts are down. So there's some things that you see that the Guardians typically like, more contact, better swing decisions. And the stolen bases are up. He already has a career high in stolen bases. He's also gotten caught 12 times, but that kind of fits into what Cleveland likes to do, where just have reckless abandon on the base paths and create havoc. So I think he's a really good fit. I don't think there was a perfect position player out there that got moved. I think that's the big thing. If you look at it, and we can get to like how you'd grade this deadline, what like the total package of it, because it's kind of complicated here.
It is.
How many better position players were traded? I think Isak Paredes from the Rays to the Cubs.
Yeah, which is funny. The Cubs kind of pulled a Guardians of the past, where they were kind of buying and selling at the same time. It was weird, but you're right. Of the contenders, like the Orioles got the best hitter they got was Eloy Jimenez,
who's been terrible,
and we know he's always hurt. The Yankees got Jazz Chisholm, which he's better than Lane Thomas probably.
Yeah, he hasn't been. I think he should be.
If you ask me who I'd rather have for the next 2 years, I'd rather have Jazz Chisholm.
I agree with you there. Right. But if you do look at like the offensive output, it's Lane Thomas has been better. But my main point is, I think it's Paredes is up here. He was the best. Yeah. And then there's like a very small gap, and it's Arozarena, Chisholm, and probably Lane Thomas.
Yeah. No. Some of the bigger names. That was the thing. The last 2 days was crazy busy. There were a million trades, but the top of the market for the most part did not move. The biggest names for the most part did not move. In the bullpen, they did. But in terms of starting pitchers, which we'll get to in a bit, and in terms of hitters, the biggest, not that there were that many big hitters on, that were being mentioned, but none of those big names moved. Even a guy we talked about a lot, who's, I wouldn't even say he's a big name, but Brent Rooker. Why did the A's not trade him?
Well, and that's the thing is, so a lot of these teams are just stupid. And like, I've talked to front offices about this too, where there's just sometimes I've talked to multiple front offices about this too. Like that, this is an industry perception that sometimes there are just front offices that you want to just look at them and say, we're trying to help you here. Like, trust us. Like, this is the right move for you to make. And they're just so wrapped up in their own process that, like, what is Oakland saving Brent Rooker for? No, he's going to turn 30 in November. Are they trying to draw fans to their 12,000 seat ballpark in Sacramento next year? They don't have a home. They don't have any chance of contending for a while. So to not cash in on 3.5 years of Brent Rooker is just silly. And you could say, maybe the Guardians should have just overwhelmed one of these teams with such a great package that they couldn't refuse it. But sometimes you just get a team that just doesn't.
Can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
We've seen it a lot with the Angels.
Exactly. The Rockies.
I mean, it's just, it's weird how that happens. But
the Rockies kept Cal Quantrill for what?
I have no idea. I have no clue. I don't know what they don't seem to have a plan in any way. But in terms of Lane Thomas, I think we're kind of on the same page, because you're saying 5 days a week, and I said, well, you should play every day, but maybe sit him against the tough right. I think we're kind of on the same page.
So there's one key though.
Yeah.
If you're gonna not play him 7 days a week, then I need to see Kyle Manzardo. Because it can't be like Daniel Schneeman's in right field.
No.
That's not the answer. The answer is go put Fry or Noel in right field the days that Lane Thomas isn't starting, that opens up DH for Kyle Manzardo. He needs to be up here. Because this is, if you're going to say, well, we've got Lane Thomas in right field, Fry and Noel, DH, like those three cover those two positions.
Right.
You're going to have that same issue next year. So is Kyle Manzardo not part of the plan? Then you should have traded him for something.
That's right. Right. You could have made there were other deals to be made. You're 100% right. Manzardo should be up today. I know that I'm not saying he's Jackson Holiday, but the deadline is over. The Orioles made their moves. We could talk about how the other contenders did. And then there was a report yesterday that Jackson Holiday, their best prospect, is coming up today. And that we should have that same report from Zach Meisel at some point today that Kyle Manzardo is coming up today. That should be the deal. You're 100% right, because he's gotten hot again. He's not, it's time. He doesn't really have much to prove, if anything, at the minor league level. He's your best prospect or one of your best prospects. Let's bring him back up here. And you're right. It makes perfect sense. What did you think of the decision to send Will Brennan down? Was that the obvious move, or were you a little surprised?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of points to them wanting to play Lane Thomas on a pretty regular basis, because Brennan would have been a platoon partner there. He's 0 for 20 since he came back from injury. And there have been bursts of like a couple good games here or there, but he's never really gotten hot, and he's not seized the opportunity that he's had. So send him down to AAA and let him take a deep breath, I guess. And
yeah,
I don't know. It seems like Angel Martinez is the center fielder. I mean, we've seen Tyler Freeman on the infield a little bit more. And so if you have stability out there with Kwan, Martinez, and Thomas, I think that's a good thing.
We'll get more to what they didn't do in a minute, but I'm a little surprised. I know you're not going to get a huge return, but I'm a little surprised like Will Brennan or Tyler Freeman or some of those guys weren't moved to get another, decent bullpenner or even another starter, a real back end starter, just to eat some innings. But we'll get to that later. Let's talk about what they did do pitching wise. A name we never discussed, and that's because the guy has not pitched the entire season. Alex Cobb is a veteran pitcher. I believe he's 36 years old. He had hip surgery earlier this season. Was all set. He's made a bunch of rehab starts in the minors for the Giants. Was, I believe, originally supposed to make his major league debut, his 2024 major league debut this past weekend, I believe. But then he developed the blisters that's pushed him back a little bit. So he's obviously just about ready to go. He has been I'd say a good pitcher for the last bunch of years. Made his first All-Star game last season.
Yeah.
Which is funny at the age of 34, 35, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. In terms of what he's been the last few years, if that's what they're going to get, then I like the acquisition. But, and there's a big but, I just gave it to you. He hasn't pitched all year, and that makes me very nervous. Now, I can't remember who wrote this. I don't, maybe it was you. I apologize. I'm not sure. But I did see something yesterday when I was on the plane scrolling through Twitter that supposedly scouts liked what they saw from him in his rehab starts. So take it away. What's your take on Alex Cobb? I like it, but it makes me nervous because it's risky as the best pitching move.
I'm going to talk out of maybe three sides of my mouth here.
Yeah.
One, for a team that literally has the best record in baseball.
Yeah.
They are tied with the Phillies, who they just took 2 of 3 from in their place in front of 3 sellout crowds. Very impressive showing. They are the best team in baseball right now via record, and that's the only thing that matters.
Yes.
It feels like you have the most glaring deficiency. Like we've been talking since April about them needing starting pitching help. Yep. They have been canvassing the league for starting pitching help for 6 weeks. I'm surprised that resulted in Alex Cobb and Matthew Boyd, right?
Yeah.
That's the solution. 2 guys coming off major injuries who are on the back 9 of their career. And in Boyd's case, you could argue he's never really been at any point more than a number 4 or number 5 starter.
Right.
I think there's disappointment there. I think that's justified if fans are feeling like that's not enough. The flip side to this is if you look at each individual return for each starting pitcher, it's hard to make sense of this market. The best return any team got for a starting pitcher was possibly, and I have two front offices who told me that they feel this way,
The
was
Kikuchi deal?
Yusei Kikuchi
Yeah.
to the Astros. He's a rental who's having a very pedestrian season, and they got like two really good ready prospects and then a third guy.
Yeah.
I think there's mixed opinion on what the Tigers ended up getting from the Dodgers for Jack Flaherty. It feels like an offer the Guardians could have beat. The Guardians feel like they could have, like they tried to beat that. There were questions about his health. There were questions about how the Tigers treated this. A couple teams felt like the Tigers were trying to strong arm a lot of people and then waited to the last minute and had to take whatever the Dodgers were offering because other teams made moves. So really strange. The Eric Fetty thing, I know the Guardians were in on him too. And
that was crazy. The White Sox, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Talk about what they're doing.
And it's hard for me to slam the Guardians too much on Fetty just because that ended up being a 3-team deal and there's a lot of moving parts and it's, I don't know. I guess they just couldn't get in on that. But again, like there was so much quantity. I mean, I'm staring at a list of all the players moved at the deadline and I mean, it looks like it's 50 players. It wasn't much quality. And so part of me is like, okay, well, again, like, shouldn't they have such a healthy farm system? Shouldn't they just have said, hey, we have to outbid other teams for Flaherty, or we have to convince the White Sox to give us Crochet, or, something like that? And or is it just, there just wasn't like, which teams substantially upgraded? Like the Orioles got Zach Eflin and Trevor Rogers.
Trevor Rogers.
I always confuse him and Trevor Richards.
And they seemed, again, when we say teams gave up a lot, it's all prospects. So you never,
right.
You don't want to go overboard because until guys prove they can play in the majors. But people felt like they gave up a lot for Trevor Rogers because Connor Norby, who they gave up, is a really good prospect.
And Stowers isn't bad either.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, I think it's disappointing because it still feels like the starting pitching is still going to be a huge risk, and it's still the team's glaring weakness. That didn't change. And yet at the same time, I do think if you look around, like aside from maybe the Dodgers, who are in a different stratosphere than everybody, I don't think there were teams that like substantially improved. The Orioles, they got back end guys. I think they got like 2 number 4 starters basically. And like that helps. That'll help you get to October. But if you're the Guardians and you're not sitting there being like, oh man, now we're going to have to go through Trevor Rogers in the ALCS. Like that's not a big deal.
I look overall at the American League. Nobody made a trade that you're like, wow, what a difference maker for that team. All the teams got better, including the Guardians. I think the Royals did a nice job improving their bullpen.
Yeah.
I think
the Twins.
I think the Yankees pickup of obviously Jazz Chisholm's hit 4 home runs already for them in a couple of days. I think their pickup under the radar of Mark Leiter Jr., who I know well because he's pitched for the Cubs. He's a very good pitcher. Don't look at his total stats for this year. He pitched for like a week or two injured. If you take out that week or two before he went on the IL and look at him the last 2 years, his numbers are lights out. And he is the best right-handed relief pitcher against lefties, maybe in all of baseball. And so I like what they did. But no, the Yankees and Orioles all along have been considered the 2 best contenders with the Guardians. And those teams certainly got better. But neither of them made a move that you're like, they got that guy and we didn't. They made similar types of moves.
Mariners too.
Guardians did.
I think the Mariners got a little better. Arozarena and Turner, which those aren't like cornerstone lineup pieces, but they desperately needed offensive help. But, even like the Astros, like Kikuchi, I thought he would have been a good fit with Cleveland. Not at that price. But how much does that really improve?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't move the needle. I think in the end, I would have liked the Guardians to do more, but they did enough that I'm not going to come on and kill him today. We asked them to make moves. They did make moves. We wanted them to get a starter. They did. The starter they got, if he's right, is a good pitcher. I mean, it's not crazy to think, and I'm just going through all the starting pitchers that got traded in my head, and maybe I'm forgetting somebody. If you told me that in the last 2 months of the season, Alex Cobb is the best of the starters that got traded, that's not crazy. Is it crazy?
It wouldn't be if he had pitched to the 3.75 ERA that
Yes.
even for like a few weeks. But
Right.
we haven't
I'm
seen it.
absolutely. It's risky. Somebody said it's not risky. They didn't give up much. When I say it's risky, it's not what they gave up. They didn't give up
No.
anything. I'll be honest, I never even heard of the guy they traded. Never even heard of him.
It's I will never bash a team for trading. It's better to trade first of all, I trust their pitching evaluation.
Yes.
They've earned that. And it's also, these are two 19-year-old kids.
Right.
Who, you're trying to get better now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not going to crush a team for
right. Absolutely. But
trading away someone who might help you in
it's
2028.
risky is what you said about making other deals. It's risky because their biggest need was starting pitcher, and the only guy you got is risky because you don't know if he's he's been a good pitcher. Like I said, he was an all-star last year. If he pitches the final 2 months of the season like he did last year, it's great. It's a great addition. But we don't know that. It's a big risk because we don't know if he's going to be any good. He could just be done now, for all we know. I said he could be the best pitcher in baseball. Not the best pitcher in baseball. He could be the best of the newly acquired pitchers. He could also end up being out of baseball by next year. I mean, it's not like a lot of pitchers go off the cliff at 36, 37 years old. So who knows? And it just seems like, yes, they could have done more. If I had to give a grade, I'm not a big fan of giving grades. I would give them like a B minus, something like that for what they did. I like the Lane Thomas move. Don't love it. I think I like Alex Cobb. I would have loved the Alex Cobb move if they had also gotten Flaherty. Then you love the Cobb move, right? Or some other pitcher that you trust more.
You're also banking on Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams have to be ace level.
Yes.
Number 1, number 2 starters. And then Ben Lively can't turn into a pumpkin here.
No.
You need him.
The hope in the playoffs is, right, that's your 4 in a perfect world. It's and everybody talks about 3. You need 4 in the play. You really want to have 4 in the playoffs. Because then you start doing short rest and you talk about young pitchers and guys who have it in a perfect, you really want 4. Bybee, Williams, Lively, and Cobb. That's
just as we all predicted.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And it's it's just so different because the reason why the Cobb thing to me is like, I can live with that in the playoffs because you can have such a quick hook with guys and you can lean on that bullpen that has been so good. So that's fine. And Cobb's got playoff experience from 11 years ago in Cleveland when he dominated the then Indians in the 2013 wild card game.
Yep.
But I think to get there though is the key too. And that's where I feel like they're lacking a little bit. Because again, like Carlos Carrasco is going to have to start against the Orioles this week. That's rough. Like Joey Cantillo, I'm assuming is going to make another start here. And I don't know.
Not excited about that.
No. So you still have to get through the next 2 months without just destroying your elite bullpen and making sure those guys stay healthy and making sure, you're banking on Bybee and Williams and Lively staying healthy too. There's still no margin for error there. And remember, in 2016, everything was going swimmingly, and then you lost Salazar and Carrasco in September, and you had to play a completely different style to get to the World Series. So, I don't know.
I think if they had gotten sorry to cut you off, Zach, but even if it wasn't Flaherty, even if it wasn't a great pitcher, if they had gotten one more Alex Cobb, a healthy Alex Cobb level starter, what was that?
Or even a good reliever.
Another reliever, yeah.
Why couldn't they get Urseg from Oakland?
Right. True.
I'm not going to crush them for not outbidding the Padres and all the moves they made to get relievers because they
Right.
literally gave up their entire farm system.
Yeah.
But there were some decent relievers who were moved, like
Yeah. They had more to trade. They
yeah,
could have done more. They did
100%.
some. They kept up with the Joneses to some degree, but I would have liked them to do more. And you say, Padres gave up their whole farm system. If I'm a Padres fan, I don't care. I want to
No.
win. I want to win. I don't care. There was nobody the Guardians were going to trade from their minor league system. Nobody. And that includes Kyle Manzardo. I know they're not trading Bizana, but they could have traded anybody. And I would not, even if it looked like an overpay on paper, I would not have cared because I want them to win now.
It's tough because again, like looking at the list of the players who were traded, I don't think there was anyone who was moved where it's like, oh, like they should have just given up DeLauder to get that guy.
Right,
Because
sure.
there just weren't. Again, it's a lot of just filler pieces or okay guys, including who the Guardians got, but which is disappointing because it was the type of year where they should have the aggressiveness that they showed in 2016.
Yeah.
They're again best record in baseball. You've got
Yeah.
super healthy farm system with an influx of the best draft class of any team.
Right.
And
no clear dominant team in the American League, which there wasn't that year either.
100%. You just went into Philly. You kind of proved that you can hang with anybody.
Yeah.
You didn't have Naylor. Bobby and Williams didn't pitch against the Phillies. You still took 2 or 3.
Yep.
And by the way, you have an energized fan base.
100%.
And I know you don't want to be reactionary and act on emotion and make moves just to appease the common fan. But you've got a really good thing going. It's just all the ingredients were there to swing really big. They didn't really.
No.
It doesn't seem like anybody really did, except maybe
Nah.
the Padres.
They got a bloop single to left field. They did enough that fans are not going to be pissed, I think, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But not enough where, let's go. I mean,
Right.
you fired up. I don't think
No one's buying tickets to the Orioles series this weekend just because of the trade deadline, right?
That's correct.
That's
correct.
I remember
Now,
when they
again,
signed
as you
Edwin
said,
Encarnacion.
nobody was traded at this time for that reason. But I wonder in the end, did they make it, as unlikely as it might have been, did they make an offer for Crochet? Did they make an offer for Tarek Skubal? I know those guys did they make a crazy offer and just get it turned down?
I don't know about Skubal. I mean, what's crazy is they were talking to those two teams a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do, I would imagine that Skubal and Crochet, of course, were part of those conversations at some point. It's weird. Both teams, there was a lot of talk about the in-division thing. And on one hand, it doesn't pass the smell test to me because first of all, with like, if you're the White Sox and you're trading Fetty or something,
who cares?
Who cares if it's in the division?
Yeah.
If either team is supposed to care about that, it should be the Guardians who don't want to see their prospects on the White Sox beating them in 7 years.
Yeah.
The White Sox should not care about that at all.
No.
But supposedly that was in play. I think, I believe I read that there was not a single prospect from Baseball America's top 100 who was traded.
Interesting.
So
not
I
Connor
think
Norby, he wasn't top 100?
I guess not.
Oh.
And none of the Padres guys. So I do think two things. One, teams freaking love prospects these days. Like times have changed. 15 years ago, teams would be like, hey, here, take our top 3 prospects for this reliever. That doesn't happen anymore. Every team hugs prospects more than they used to. And 2, again, it's just super high quantity, not a lot of quality moved. That doesn't excuse teams that should have done more.
Yeah.
But, the Orioles had more prospect capital than anyone, and they got back some helpful guys, but not anyone who's scary.
I think in the end, you look at the 3 best teams, and this is not to give the Guardians a pass because we both agree they could have done more. I think Yankee fans are disappointed this morning. I think Orioles fans are disappointed this morning.
How about the Twins?
Yeah.
They acquired like maybe a number 5
starting
pitcher. That's it.
Yeah. So I don't think any fan base is thrilled with what their team did at the trade deadline, except for the Dodgers, as you said. because if Flaherty's healthy, they got a million guys hurt, but guys are coming back. So we'll see. All right. We spent the whole time talking trade deadline. Got a lot of, we're not, unfortunately, folks, I know there's been a ton of comments. We don't have time to read the comments today because we got to wrap up soon. But we will spend a couple of minutes after a quick break talking about what the Guardians did on the field since we last talked on Friday. But first, let me talk to you about FanDuel. It's the best time of the year. Football right around the corner. Baseball is in full gear. And FanDuel is looking to hook up all customers with a booster of bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Zach, let's wrap it up on the field. We last spoke Friday. Since then, the Guardians won 4 of 5, took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies, 3-1 and 4-3 the wins. They lost that game 8-0. That kid, Tyler Phillips, I wasn't able to see that game because I was out and about in Seattle, but he pitched a great game, complete game.
You missed nothing.
Yeah. And then they sweep the Tigers, an impressive 2 days, 8-4, 5-0. Gavin Williams was really good, but only went 5 innings. Give me your impressions of their 4 of 5 in Philly and Detroit. They've increased their lead to 6.5 over both Kansas City and Minnesota.
Yeah, the last couple days, the offense has looked a little bit better. I think that Giancarlo Noel 3-run homer on Sunday I think it just let everybody exhale.
Yep.
You see the formula. It's pretty simple. Just hand the bullpen a lead and get out of the way. What they did Sunday in Philadelphia was incredible. Cade Smith, who could be a closer for like half the teams in the league, coming in the 4th inning and being kind of like the executioner. Just get out of a jam, come back, pitch another inning, goes 1 2/3. They can't touch him. And then it's an assembly line. It's Tim Herron, whose ERA is 1. It's Hunter Gaddis, whose ERA was 1 before he pitched on Monday. And of course, at the end, Clase, who's just untouchable. So that's the formula. You need to do everything you can to protect that formula for the next 2 months and make sure those relievers are getting used the right amount. And you need just enough offense. And I think figuring out how often Fry and Noel and even Lane Thomas to a degree should play and what the best matchups are is key. I still think like Angel Martinez has been struggling a lot lately. He's come back to earth. Freeman's been a little better lately. Like they need to still figure out who gives them the best chance to win. Can they live with Rocchio's offense? If they're getting elite defense from him, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'd love to see Juan Brito up here and shift Jimenez to shortstop. I asked Chris Antonetti about that yesterday. He said they hadn't talked to Jimenez yet about moving positions in season. So I don't know what the plan is, but they still need an answer. They need one young kid to step up, and whether it's Bo Naylor getting hot like he did late last season or Martinez being the guy he was the first few weeks and not the last few weeks, they need somebody, one more hitter to step up so that the bottom third of that lineup isn't automatic.
No doubt. How would you have felt if they had made a move for Paul DeJong?
Even with his home runs, like his OPS still stinks. And I think defensively he's not very good. He just never seemed like a Guardians player.
I hear you. I would have loved for them to get a guy who's played in the big leagues regularly and just has that experience and has some playoff experience. But it wasn't.
The other thing is Cobb typically has one of the highest ground ball rates in the league.
That's true.
So I will say having a really good defensive infield behind him can help. Just not that I
just feel like their defense is good enough. You could survive a mediocre shortstop. You bring in Rocchio late in the game.
Believe me, I'm tired of watching Rocchio at the plate. Yeah. But I also think, why can't Juan Brito just come up here and play second base?
I know. Why haven't they discussed that? Like, what do they? It's frustrating sometimes. Did you? What did he say about Manzardo? Did you talk to him about Manzardo?
No, because we had asked about Manzardo a couple days earlier. I don't know what to think there. I still think they really like him, but I don't know I'm with you. He has nothing left to prove in Columbus.
Yeah.
And you need, like, what if he can be the hitter you thought when you traded for him last year?
Yeah.
Isn't that someone you'd want for the next 2 months to help
Right.
you lock down a first round bye?
Yeah. Well, it is frustrating when it feels like there's some other things they could do internally, and we'll see what they end up doing. Um, how did you look at it? Look at ahead before we wrap things up. Their schedule the rest of the season is brutal. Now they got a great record. They got an excellent team. They've proven they can play with anybody. But I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. They're playing. First of all, they don't. The next team they play that's under 500
Your
is what?
Cubs.
The Cubs. Which you're right, they play, and the Cubs aren't terrible.
You going to throw out a ceremonial first pitch in that series?
I haven't been invited to.
Hmm.
We're going to be actually down on the field. The UCSS crew, by the way, in between. I gotta remember what day it is. I'll remind you because you got to come down. Jay's going to be throwing batting practice to like some of us.
Oh, that's.
We're going to be on the. I can't remember. I have the date here somewhere.
Is this like a tryout?
Well, for me, no.
This is why they didn't make more moves because they figured you guys are.
They figured maybe we could help them. Maybe Jay could help them on the mound. I mean, Jay plays like over 50 baseball. He won a championship last year. He can't help the Guardians, but he's a good pitcher for an amateur. Very good.
Hey.
But that'll be fun. How did I get to that? Why did I bring that up? That
Just their schedule is. Yeah,
oh yeah. Right. So I would love to throw a ceremonial first pitch, but anyway, I mean they play the Cubs who are under 500, and that's about it. They got a 3-game series with the White Sox in September. Cincinnati's bad. They play 2 games with them late. And Tampa Bay's not great.
There also just aren't that many bad teams in the league.
No, but they're not playing outside of the White Sox series. They're not playing the few bad teams they are. They're done with all of them except for the White Sox.
Yeah, like I'm curious to see what do the Rays look like by mid-September when they face them. What do the Rangers even look like here in a few weeks?
Yeah.
That's why it was big that they just went and took both of those games in Detroit, a team that's given them fits all season.
Right.
You know, they need to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. You get 4 with the Orioles this weekend. That's going to be a war. So, yeah, it's.
I like it though. I like when they play good teams because I like the challenge of it. And this homestand, as you said, 4 with Baltimore, then 3 with a Arizona team that just went to the World Series. I know they're not as good this year, but they're still good. And then you got to go to Minnesota. But yeah, they got 10 of their next 14 at home where they've been really good. So hopefully they can take advantage of it. Then a road trip after that. But all right, that's it. That's going to do it for today. Coming up, we'll be back in 2 days on Friday. We'll talk more on the field stuff. We'll see if they've brought up Kyle Manzardo here in the next 48 hours, if they could do that. Zach, what do you got going on article-wise for The Athletic or anything else going on?
A lot. Oh, man.
You got an Alex Cobb deep dive coming?
No, our Giants writer, Andrew Baggerly, actually caught up with him. And a lot of positive reviews of just who he is as a person. Said he's a guy who, even if he's at like 75%, he'll gut through it and like you're not worried about him not being up to par, which does give you a little bit more confidence just in the unknown of what he could be.
Right.
I got a lot. CC Sabathia is getting inducted into the Cleveland Baseball Hall of Fame this weekend.
He's going to be on UCSS on this weekend too, on Friday.
So I've got some cool anecdotes about him coming later this week. I actually spent some time at the Collectors Convention last week. I've got a couple fun things on that.
Yeah.
Some long-term projects that are finally reaching the finish line on the Guardians, new and old. So a lot. This is a busy month.
Good stuff. The show, we're supposed to do a 30 to 33-minute show. We always go long. I think we're not supposed to, but we do it anyway. Again, sorry
for you people.
Comments. What's that?
It's for the people.
It is for the people. Big numbers today. Thanks to everybody for joining us. As I said, we'll be back on Friday, probably at 9 a.m. also, but we'll let you know. We're a little flexible with the time. We got to be. Zach has a crazy schedule. My schedule's been a little nuts with my trip, but I'm not going anywhere the rest of the season. So a lot to get to. And now it's pennant race time. And now it's internal help And down the stretch, there's what do they have? 50, 60 games left. What is this? They're let's see. They've played 107
55
games
left.
55 games left. Let's go. They have to, all they have to do is to win 100 games is go 35-20. I mean, that's not, I shouldn't say all you have to do. That's not easy.
And all the White Sox have to do to win 80 games is go 40, 53-0.
Well, the question is, the all-time worst record is the Mets, 62 Mets expansion team. They went 40-120. They played 160 games, not 162. So do you think the White Sox will win 40 games? They've played what, 110, so they have 110. Yes, they have 52 games left. Do you think to win 41, they got to go 14-36? Will they go 14-36? I say no. Let's say
I don't think so.
I think they're going to break the record.
They've currently lost 15 in a row.
I think it's 16.
And they just traded some guys.
They've lost 16 in a row. Zach.
16 in a row now? It's hard to keep count. No, they're terrible. And also I think they're 5-5 against the Guardians. That's
which is
20% of their wins.
Yeah. Their 8-2 win over the Guardians. They beat the Guardians 8-2 on July 3rd. They've won 2 games since then. 2 since July 3rd.
A lot's changed in the world since then.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Zach, great stuff as always. We'll talk to you, folks. We'll see you on Friday. Where else but right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.